Hello and welcome to this News 9 special. Well, we bring you the top stories of the hour and there is a whole bunch of them. Let us in fact start with the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud. Now, Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or better known as MBS, is on a 3-day visit to India. The Crown Prince held bilateral talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A high-level delegation also accompanied the Crown Prince to discuss closer defense ties, economic corridor project, and of course the big aspect of it, the trade partnership. Union External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval were also present in the bilateral meeting. Now, the Crown Prince has already been in India for the G20 summit. The Crown Prince stayed back for the state visit. During their bilateral meeting, the two leaders discussed a wide range of issues, is what we come to understand. Importantly, it is about the India-Middle East-Europe corridor, considered to be a parallel emerging trade corridor against the Belt and Road Initiative of China. Now, prior to their bilateral meetings, officials of the Saudi Arabian and Indian government did meet in Delhi, and they went ahead and signed several memorandums of understanding. Saudi Arabia has been very interested in Indian markets and has been keenly investing in some of India's tech sectors as well. Saudi Arabia has been looking for forging greater ties with India and also to ensure that high-tech trade as well as agrarian trade is also upped in the process. Meanwhile, MBS's visit is considered to be quite significant. Recently, it is being said that whenever there was a visit by MBS, there was a stopover in Islamabad. However, this time, it looks like the Saudi prince has decided to straightaway fly to India and to carry on with bilateral trade as well as bilateral agreements on deepening ties with the country. Let's listen into some of the reactions coming in and also the talks that were held between the Saudi prince and Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
हम हमारे संबंधों में नए और आधुनिक आयाम जोड़ रहे हैं। भारत के लिए सऊदी अरब हमारे सबसे महत्वपूर्ण स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर में से एक है। विश्व की दो बड़ी और तेज गति से बढ़ने वाली अर्थव्यवस्थाओं के रूप में हमारा आपसी सहयोग पूरे क्षेत्र की शांति और स्थिरता के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। हिज रॉयल हाइनेस के साथ बैठक के हमने हमारी करीबी साझेदारी को नेक्स्ट लेवल पर ले जाने के लिए कई इनिशिएटिव की पहचान की है। आज की हमारी बैठक से हमारे संबंधों को एक नई ऊर्जा, एक नई दिशा मिलेगी और हमें मिलकर मानवता की भलाई के लिए काम करते रहने की प्रेरणा मिलेगी। कल हमने मिलकर भारत, पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप के बीच इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर स्थापित करने के लिए ऐतिहासिक शुरुआत की है। इसी कॉरिडोर से केवल दोनों देशों ही आपस में नहीं जोड़ेगा, परंतु एशिया, पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप के बीच आर्थिक सहयोग, ऊर्जा के विकास और डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी को बल देगा। योर रॉयल हाइनेस, आपके नेतृत्व में और आपके विजन 2030 के माध्यम से सऊदी अरब जिस तेजी से आर्थिक और सामाजिक प्रगति कर रहा है, उसके लिए मैं हृदय से आपका बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन करता हूं। सऊदी अरब में रहने वाली भारतीयों के हितों की सुरक्षा और उनके कल्याण के लिए आपकी प्रतिबद्धता के लिए हम आपके बहुत बहुत आभारी हैं। भारत और सऊदी अरब की मित्रता क्षेत्रीय और वैश्विक स्थिरता, समृद्धि और मानव कल्याण के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। मैं एक बार फिर हिज रॉयल हाइनेस और आप सभी का G20 समिट की सफलता में योगदान देने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं।
Beneficial relations for both countries. There was no agreement at all during the history of this relationship, but there is cooperation to build the future of our country and create opportunities. Today we're working on the future opportunities. There is a huge agenda to be working with. We are working through this council to achieve these accomplishments, and these are promising, and I congratulate you on the management of the G20 summit and the initiatives achieved, including the economic corridor linking the Middle East, India and Europe, which require that we work diligently in order to create it into a reality. The Indians in Saudi Arabia had a large part in the economic growth of Saudi Arabia. Today they are 7% of the population of Saudi Arabia. We hope that this council will meet the aspirations of our people, and we wish us success.
At the outset of the discussions which we had in the morning, the Crown Prince congratulated India for a very successful G20 meeting with lots of major outcomes in that meeting. The Prime Minister also acknowledged that the Kingdom had been very actively participating in the G20 meetings, and especially the two sides expressed their happiness at the launching of the India-Middle East Economic Corridor as one of the major outcomes of the G20 under India's presidency. The Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, also congratulated the Kingdom on becoming a full member of the BRICS, of course, as a follow-up of their membership in the CO. Thereafter, the two sides had long discussions. The Crown Prince went on to mention that India and Saudi Arabia have a long history of friendship over several hundreds of years, and no instances of any differences or conflict. That kind of bonhomie he was emphasizing. He also mentioned that both the Kingdom and India are the two fastest economies, were the two fastest economies in 2022 last year, and continues to be so. And it is expected that the two countries would remain, the leading economic growth countries of the world for the next 1 decade or so. And so there are so many different areas in which the two countries could cooperate, and the two sides identified areas such as energy cooperation, defense, security, education, technology, transportation, healthcare, tourism and culture.
Beautiful relationship between Saudi Arabia and India. Khalid and I have been friends, and we've gone over the hump in terms of formalities, and we thought that instead of, at the suggestion of some of the participants here, we thought instead of a regular speech, we'll engage in a conversation that will help us truly articulate from the heart our feelings about this beautiful partnership, this brotherhood. And for all of us in India, it's a matter of great delight that His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, has led one of the largest delegations from Saudi Arabia to India. We've had the Strategic Partnership Council meeting where both the leaders, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister of Bharat, have held extensive bilateral discussions, and which has just concluded an hour ago. And for both of us, it is a matter of pride and happiness that such a wonderful galaxy of business leaders have taken it upon themselves to take this engagement forward. A very, very warm welcome to you, Khalid Bhai, and to all of our friends from Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
Piyush, let me join you, first of all, in greeting and welcoming our colleagues and dear friends from the business community, as well as representatives from our two governments for this engagement that has been ongoing for, as time immortal, thousands of years, but certainly in our recent time there has been an accelerated engagement between our two countries, both at the government level and the private sector level. And once again, as you mentioned, it is climaxing with the summit and state visit by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince to your great country, India, Bharat, as we're starting to call it, which we, of course, have always known it as such, and it is part of your constitution. But before going too far in the business matters of the day, I think it's incumbent on me as a friend and very much family with you and every Indian to extend a number of congratulations. And I have to control myself because this could be a long
Meanwhile, the Khalistan referendum event was organized in Surrey, Vancouver at the Guru Nanak Singh Gurudwara. Now, please understand that the Prime Minister of Canada is in India, and because of a technical snag, he is still remaining in the country. And the issue about this has been raised with the Canadian government for quite some time. It's not the first time or the second time. There have been quite a few times in bilateral levels that we've been raising this issue. Now, an approximate crowd of 5,000 to 7,000 people is said to have turned up for this event, and this was what is said to have been its predicted strength, which is around 50,000 to 75,000, but that was not the case. Hardly 5,000 people came for this. Now, this was the same event which was earlier scheduled to be held at a Canadian government school, but the permission was revoked after there was an uproar against it. Now, the gathering has been termed to be a failure, and this despite the Canadian Prime Minister being in India. That is when they went ahead and decided to go for this referendum. Now, the crucial part of this is this, that Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, who is a Khalistani extremist and terrorist, has given an open call for the balkanization of India. This is the part that is really worrying when it comes to the aspect of this protest, where extremists are slowly taking over Canadian systems to actually use it against India. In fact, we are joined in by my colleague Aditya. Aditya, one concerning factor over here is this, that Khalistani extremism has reached the power centers of Canada. Is India actually talking to Canada, or is it India actually talking to Khalistan? And it seems that the Canadian administration and Canada is now trying to accommodate them as a pressure group. Several times questions have been raised about their extremist behavior, but it doesn't seem to in fact bother them as well. So many Khalistani sympathizers have got into the government of Canada. Is it the government of Khalistan that's operating, or is it the government of Canada that is operating? I think that question has to be asked significantly on this matter.
Very pertinent question there, Verghese, and that's the reality. And no answers being given by the Canadian administration. In fact, as you rightly pointed out, Justin Trudeau is in India. He was supposed to leave after the G20 meeting yesterday evening, but while he was on his way to the airport, the Royal Air Force actually informed him that the private jet in which he was traveling, had developed a technical snag. So he's stranded here. So while Justin Trudeau is stranded in New Delhi, there's yet another Khalistani propaganda event, a so-called referendum that happens in Surrey, and in which 5,000 people approximately participated. It was being told that more than 75,000 people will turn up, but it turned out to be a massive embarrassment and failure for propagandists of Khalistan and their sponsors in Canada and in Pakistan. Only yesterday, in a pull-aside meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Modi very strongly raised the issue of the Khalistan and said that when India's sovereignty comes under question by some radical lumpen elements, then certainly India will raise its voice and Canada will have to act. And international media has not just reported this. There are international global headlines which say that Modi scolded Justin Trudeau in the pull-aside. Now, pull-aside itself is an embarrassment because Canada had requested for a bilateral on the sidelines of the G20, just like Modi had with Biden, Sheikh Hasina, and several other top leaders who came in for the G20. but it was only Justin Trudeau who got this pull aside, which means that very concrete, talking happened there, in which Modi lambasted Justin Trudeau for the support to the Khalistani elements. For years together, the Khalistani elements have got a safe shelter in Canada, and no action whatsoever has been taken, even though they are criminal elements and they have been acting against India, announcing violent acts involved in terrorism. And this time around, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, a designated terrorist of Sikhs for Justice, a terrorist organization, threatening not just Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but also Foreign Minister, External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar, Home Minister Amit Shah, and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. So the ball is in Canada's court completely. Tomorrow morning, when Justin Trudeau leaves New Delhi for Canada, will he act? It doesn't seem like he will. But at this moment, pressure seems to be mounting globally on Justin Trudeau to act, because in G20, he faced a global embarrassment. It's not just the international press or the press in India, but even the Canadian press is talking about Justin Trudeau's embarrassment in G20. He was completely sidelined. Nobody actually gave him any attention. And perhaps it's time for self-reflection and introspection for Justin Trudeau. Does he stand with democracy, secularism, and international rules-based order, or will he continue to provoke and in fact sponsor and help these Khalistani separatists and terror organizations?
Also, one aspect of this, as I was saying, worrying trend that we have seen is that a lot of Khalistani sympathizers seems to be taking over some of the administrative systems of Canada. You are speaking with them. So is Khalistan being realized more in Canada? Of course, in India, it cannot be realized, but it seems that they are getting their state in Canada. Isn't it an internal threat for themselves?
That's the irony, really, Yorgis, isn't it? That the Khalistanis really wanted to establish a so-called Khalistan rule in India. They don't even talk about Pakistan, because the original Khalistan concept talked about Lahore being the capital of Khalistan. So before India, they will have to actually act against the Pakistani government and the ISI, who actually provoke and support and sponsor them right now. But what has actually happened, the tables have completely turned. Because for years together, the Canadian government and the administration has provided them support and safe shelter and sanctuary to Khalistani terrorists. Now it's almost clear that Brampton or any other area in Canada can actually become a Khalistani state. It is almost, because several of these constituencies in Canada are swing vote constituencies with massive support of the radical Sikh population that support the Justin Trudeau government. So clearly, that's why he's not acting in this particular case. But there's global pressure now against him. Yesterday, when Prime Minister met Justin Trudeau, tough talking happened. A day before that, when Prime Minister met Rishi Sunak of UK, he also told him very strongly that it was unacceptable that such violence was being dared against the Indian High Commission in London. It happened earlier this year when the Indian High Commission was ransacked and attacked. The Indian flag was also pulled down, and thereafter the local authorities had acted and arrested many people. The NIA had also investigated and registered a case. But the Canadian administration has completely been a mute spectator, not acted, so much so that the Indian diplomats in Canada have to move around with security. Imagine that. So clearly, India doing the tough talking, even as Justin Trudeau is stranded here. There are more Khalistani propaganda, terror events that are happening under Justin Trudeau's administration.
Well, appalling as you in fact sound that Indian diplomats have to in fact go with their own security, because the state of Canada seems to have given its sway of political will and sovereignty to Khalistani elements who just decide with their radicalization and their target and hatred for India is what they try to propagate. Thank you, Aditya. A pleasure always to speak to you, especially on such matters and being given that insight about what exactly is happening on the ground. Thank you for joining us. Well, let's move on to something more interesting that is coming up on the other side. We have the Maratha outfits who had called for a bandh in Thane to protest against the lathi charge that was held against protesters who had assembled to protest on the Maratha quota earlier this month. An agitation seeking reservation for the Maratha community turned violent at Antarwali Sarthi village in Jalna district. Now, this agitation had provoked a lathi charge leading to several people, including dozens of policemen being injured as the mobs went violent because of that lathi charge. Now, it is being said that the reason for it is also that the mob had refused to let authorities to shift a man on a hunger strike as part of the quota stir in the hospital. Now, quota activist Manoj Jarange has said that he will continue on his fast and that the Marathas will need to be given the Kundi certificate under the OPC category. The Marathas has been asking for a reservation. The Supreme Court had struck down the reservation that was handed to the Marathas, and the agitation has begun ever since on this particular topic. Well, there has been a lot of political reactions on this. Let's listen in.
मराठा आरक्षणच्या संदर्भामध्ये अनेक बैठका देखील झाल्या. दिवशी देखील उशिरापर्यंत रात्री उशिरा म्हणजे जवळपास 2 वाजेपर्यंत मीटिंग झाली आणि मनोज जरांगे पाटील यांच्या शिष्टमंडळाशी देखील सकारात्मक चर्चा झाली. काही त्यांनी मुद्दे मांडले, त्या मुद्द्यावर देखील आपण चर्चा केली. त्याचबरोबर निवृत्त न्यायाधीश शिंदे साहेबांची एक कमिटी आपण नेमलेली आहे. त्याच्यामध्ये जे काही पुरावे आहेत, पुरावे देण्याच्या देखील सूचना झाल्या. एकंदरीत थोडा वेळ आवश्यक आहे, कारण आपण कुठलाही निर्णय घेताना तो कायद्याच्या चौकटीत टिकला पाहिजे, कोर्टामध्ये टिकला पाहिजे. अशा प्रकारचा निर्णय आपण घेणं आवश्यक आहे आणि सरकारची भूमिका स्पष्ट आहे, मराठा समाजाला आरक्षण देण्याची.
आव्हान केलेलं आहे आणि मुख्यमंत्री आमचे सगळ्यांचे प्रमुख आहेत. शेवटी लोकशाहीमध्ये एखादं उपोषण करणं किंवा आपला प्रश्न लावून धरणं याला 100% मान्यताच आहे. लोकशाहीमध्ये ती एक पद्धत देखील आहे. पण त्याचवेळी मला असं वाटतं की सगळ्यांनी मिळून असे प्रश्न सोडवण्याकरता आपल्याला काय मार्ग काढता येईल. आता शेवटी सरकारला देखील कायद्याचा विचार करावा लागतो, वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारे सुप्रीम कोर्टाच्या निर्णयाचा विचार करावा लागतो. समजा प्रश्न सोडवायचे असतील तर ते कायद्याच्या चौकटीवर टिकले देखील पाहिजेत. अन्यथा उद्या समाज म्हणेल की तुम्ही आमची फसवणूक केली, तुम्ही एखादा निर्णय घेतला. म्हणून प्रयत्न आहे. मला विश्वास आहे की सगळ्यांनी मिळून जर सकारात्मक विचार केला तर समाजाचंही भलं होईल आणि निश्चितपणे अशा प्रकारचे प्रश्न.
हमने सभी को आज निवेदन किया हुआ है. ये हमारा 2 दिन पहला डिसीजन हुआ कि थाना बंद करने का जो इमरजेंसी सेवा है वो हमने अभी चालू रखी है. 9 बजे के बाद में वो सब बंद हो जाएगी. आप देखोगे तो अभी पूरा थाना आधे से ज्यादा बंद हो चुका है. हमने लोगों को आह्वान किया है शांतता से कि आप हमको सकल मराठा समाज और मराठा समाज को सपोर्ट करो. जो हमारे भाई है जो जालना में उपोषण में आज 13 दिन है वो बैठे हुए, उनके समर्थन में. और मराठा आरक्षण ये हमको मिलना चाहिए. ये हमारी 40 साल से हमारी जो मांग है वो पूरी होनी चाहिए. कोई भी सरकार रहे, हम सभी सरकार से निवेदन करते हैं कि हमारी मांगे पूरी करो.
दुकानें, व्यापारी संगठन, इनको सबको निवेदन पहुंच चुका है कि सुबह 9 से शाम को 5 तक सहकार्य करें और बंद के लिए हमें समर्थन करें. उन्होंने सबने मान्यता दी हुई है और सहकार्य करेंगे. और इसी तरह से जो हमारे भाई जालना में जो उपोषण के लिए बैठे हुए हैं उनको सहकार्य करके सपोर्ट करके मराठा आरक्षण के पीछे हमारे साथ चलेंगे, ये उनका आश्वासन है.
Well, that was another stir that was happening in Maharashtra's Thane. Moving on, Rahul Gandhi's interactive session at the University of Oslo in Netherlands was in fact held. The theme of that deliberation was the world's largest country, the world's largest democracy. Rahul Gandhi has been on a tour of Europe and has been attending several interactive events, especially with the diaspora as well as university students. As part of his latest interactions, he had an interaction session that was there in the University of Oslo. Let's listen into how it in fact panned out.
Rahul Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi,
Well, Rahul Gandhi's tour of Europe had seen interactions with several universities and its students and also the Indian diaspora. Rahul Gandhi has been speaking extensively about the democracy in the country and some aspects of that democracy and how his party is trying to have a vision for the whole country as such. And Rahul Gandhi's address at these universities focused upon the state of democracy in India. Meanwhile, all is not well within the India bloc. The I.N.D.I.A bloc saw another sort of a crack appear in it. Now, it can be considered as a differing view in the India bloc. Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary objected to West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee attending the G20 dinner hosted by President Draupadi Murmu. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary said that this will weaken Mamata's stance against Prime Minister Modi. TMC, meanwhile, has reacted to this. The TMC has in fact gone ahead and said that they need not be lectured on any issue by the Congress. Let's listen into the reactions coming in.
নৈশ ভোজের আমন্ত্রণের সাড়া দিয়ে আগ বাড়িয়ে পৌঁছে গেলেন দিল্লি। নৈশ ভোজে না গেলে কিছু হতো না, আকাশ ভেঙে পড়তো না, মহাভারত অশুদ্ধ হয়ে যেত না, কোরআন নাপাক হয়ে যেত না। এই নৈশ ভোজ ভারতবর্ষের মুখ্যমন্ত্রীদের বড় অংশ প্রত্যাখ্যান করেছে। যে নৈশ ভোজে পার্লামেন্টের বিরোধী দলের নেতা মল্লিকার্জুন খার্গেকে আহ্বান জানানো হয়নি, না গেলেও পারত। কিরকম টান, আগে ভাগে উড়ে গিয়ে দিল্লিতে অবস্থান করছে। নৈশ ভোজে যোগীর পাশে বসে, অমিত শাহর পাশে বসে নৈশ ভোজন করবে বাংলার মুখ্যমন্ত্রী মমতা ব্যানার্জি।
Mamata Banerjee was invited as the Chief Minister of West Bengal to a G20 dinner given by the President of India. She attended as a matter of ample courtesy. There is no political significance to the visit, and Adhir Ranjan should not have commented on it. Even Congress Chief Minister Sukhbinder Singh Sukhu, he attended the dinner.
The woes of the Congress does not in fact stop at that. In a shocker for the Grand Old Party, Congress leaders from Rajasthan, Jutsin Tredeau and Savai Singh Chowdhury joined the BJP. Tredeau is a former MP from Nagaur in Rajasthan, and Chowdhury was inducted into the party in the presence of Rajasthan BJP President C.P. Joshi in Delhi. Jutsin Tredeau belongs to a very highly influential Jat community. Congress will see it as a loss when it comes to having its influence in the Jat community being completely weakened, especially in certain areas of Rajasthan. Let's listen to the reaction coming in from Jutsin Tredeau on her joining the BJP.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करना चाहूंगी प्रधानमंत्री जी का, हमारे आदरणीय नड्डा जी का, अमित शाह जी का, जिन्होंने मुझे ये मौका दिया है कि मैं पार्टी ज्वाइन करूं और आप लोगों के बीच में आज यहां हाजिर होकर के और अपनी बात यहां पर रख सकूं।
Now, how does a small talk become a very important observation? Well, this is how the entire incident panned out in the Supreme Court. When Advocate Kunal Chatterjee appeared before the SC judges with an injured hand, it became a talk that led to the bench to take serious note of the stray dog menace. The judges were shocked when they came to know that the advocate was attacked by a pack of 5 dogs. The Supreme Court has said earlier that there was a need to find solution to the perennial problem of stray dogs in India. And today, well, when Advocate Chatterjee had to speak about it, some of them also came out and said that how their clerks were also attacked by a group of dogs, and some also recalled how they were reading about this in the newspapers as well. So the stray dog menace became a point where the Supreme Court in fact noted, and some of the honorable judges also noted, had become a menace. Well, the question is, what will be done further to control this menace? Let us in fact move further from here. We have a story coming in from Barabanki, well, and Lucknow as well. It's not only in Barabanki. In Barabanki, it has been seen that heavy rains have been lashing that region. Several houses have been inundated. There are reports of many people who have been also trapped and completely marooned because their villages, towns as well as their settlements have been completely flooded. Also, schools have been shut, and the NET exams that were supposed to be held today have been also postponed. Now, this is not the situation only in Barabanki. It is being said that in Lucknow, in the last 24 hours, it has received 99 millimeters of rainfall, which is quite unusual, and this has led to complete inundation of railway tracks. Well, you can see those visuals coming in from one of those locations where railway tracks have been completely inundated because of the heavy rains that has been lashing Lucknow and Barabanki regions. Now, the reason for it is said to be the formation of rain clouds as well as some disturbances in the area that led to the formation of rain-bearing clouds in the area and sustaining it for this kind of a heavy rain spell that these areas are seeing. Several low-lying areas in Lucknow have also been completely flooded. Well, you can see the visuals where people are in fact struggling to get out of their homes and in fact move around. These are the visuals that show you the kind of situation that we are seeing in these areas that have received unseasonal rainfall, what can be said the least. And also authorities have asked the local administration to ensure that the SDRF, Fire Force personnel as well as the NDRF is kept on standby for any sort of emergency, especially when it comes to rescue as well. Here we can see one of the Fire Force personnel in fact rescuing people who have been completely marooned there. The house has been completely inundated and they were on the rooftop, and now the Fire Force personnel rescuing this family from their rooftop. There we can see them coming down through those ladders and moving straight down, and this is the kind of situation that is there in Barabanki completely. So this is going to be a situation that has been prevalent in and around the area for long, and it seems that the authorities are yet to in fact find out as to what can be further done when it comes to how to mitigate the situation. You can see further visuals coming in of the heavy rains in that area. This has been the scene in Lucknow as well as in Barabanki, where we show you those flooded visuals. It is being said for the last 24 hours there has been heavy rains that have been reported in these areas. You can see the inundated streets of the towns and cities in that particular region, and heavy rains have been lashing these regions as well. The SDRF, the NDRF and other agencies have been kept at the sideline. Again, of these visuals coming in of a river that is in spate and it is moved into a residential area, flooding the region as well. These shocking visuals coming in from Lucknow and Barabanki, where the situation is said to be very, very difficult to look at, as small rivers have also burst its banks and entered residential areas. People in fact trying to move out of those areas as well. These are again some of the visuals coming in, especially of how the situations inside the homes of people. They are in fact seeing the water enter their homes. This of course from the rooftop, and someone has in fact made a video of it and showing how it has affected them. Again, this is supposed to be a railway station that has been completely inundated because of the floods. And you can see how the entire railway station, especially the signal area of that railway station, has been completely inundated. Well, moving on, there is something that's happening when it comes to the private transport operations in Bengaluru. Now, the private transport operators in Bengaluru did go for a strike and they tried to enforce it across the city. It is also being said that in certain places it did turn out to be violent. It is being said that in areas where the protesters were in fact moving, they had went ahead and pelted stones in certain areas. Some instances of stone pelting were also reported in connection to that particular strike. Most of them in fact went to the Majestic area as well, and the protesters are said to be members of 32 private transport unions, and they have all held a protest especially in and around certain important areas of Bengaluru. Some of them also moved to Freedom Park to stage their protest. Well, these are visuals coming in from Freedom Park, where the private transporters have gone ahead and asked for their demands to be met. Most of them also come from auto unions. One of the interesting demands that were put forward, and the government has in fact rejected it at the moment, is that some of the auto drivers in the area demanded for a rupees 10,000 grant a month. Now, the government said that there's already an attempt to give them healthcare and benefits of healthcare, and therefore it wouldn't be possible to go ahead and give a grant, and therefore there was some kind of a mid ground in which they decided that they wouldn't press for this particular demand. However, there was also a big demand from the transporters asking them to withdraw the Shakti scheme. Now, what is the Shakti scheme? The Shakti scheme was one of the promises that was made by the Congress government, that is to give free transport to the women of the state, and they had implemented the Shakti scheme. Most of these private transport owners are asking for the Shakti scheme to be withdrawn, as they have seen a falling footfall when it comes to women using transport services, especially private transport services, and therefore they have in fact raised this particular aspect as well. The government has rejected that demand because it is a flagship program that they have put in place, so that has also become quite a thorn. Meanwhile, Ramalinga Reddy had spoken to the protesters, and he had in fact said that some of them can be met. They have also asked issues on life tax for their vehicles right now, which is being paid for vehicles that are up to 15 lakhs. They said they wanted to be extended to vehicles above 15 lakhs as well. Well, it is being said that particular demand has also been rejected by the government, and still negotiations have been going on, but some kind of fruitful settlement coming in, with most of them in fact deciding that they will call off the strike as such. And the host of demands in fact coming in from the private operators and transport operators. One of them have also asked whether an aggregator app could be put in place that would be run by the government. Now let's in fact listen to what Ramalinga Reddy, the Transport Minister of Karnataka, had to say after meeting with the protesters.
Transport union, they have called for Bandh. But government has taken all initiatives, and more than 500 buses are running. Around 4,000 trips will be there from airport to Bangalore, or Bangalore to airport, in railway station, near hospitals, and schools, colleges. Our officers know where buses are needed. They have planned, and since last night they are in field. The union is demanding 10,000 per month per head. It costs about 4,400 crores for auto drivers, and for buses around 1,000 crores. 5,005 crores we need for this. And some issues, there are 4 issues which are in court, High Court and Supreme Court. And the rest other things which I can solve, and what I have taken action, that I have given to all the press people 3-4 days back.
Well, that's all that we have when it comes to this edition of Top Stories. These are the stories that have been picked up as the day in fact comes to an end in this evening. We actually will keep track on some of the important stories that mean to you as such, and we will give them the updates as we continue with it. Well, from that, it's a wrap on this edition of Top Stories. On the other side, stay tuned to News 9 as we bring you several important updates, especially when it comes to international news as well as what's happening in Manipur. That's on the other side.
GPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies.
A human has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.
Dark Side of the Boom. Streaming now.
Excellencies, इस स्पेशल इवेंट में आप सबका हार्दिक स्वागत है। मेरे मित्र राष्ट्रपति बाइडेन के साथ इस इवेंट को को-चेयर करते हुए मुझे हार्दिक खुशी हो रही है। आज हम सब ने एक महत्वपूर्ण और ऐतिहासिक समझौता संपन्न होते हुए देखा है। आने वाले समय में यह भारत, पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप के बीच इकोनॉमिक इंटीग्रेशन का प्रभावी माध्यम होगा। यह पूरे विश्व में कनेक्टिविटी और विकास को सस्टेनेबल दिशा प्रदान करेगा। मैं हिज एक्सेलेंसी राष्ट्रपति बाइडेन, हिज रॉयल हाइनेस क्राउन प्रिंस एंड प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोहम्मद बिन सलमान, हिज रॉयल हाइनेस राष्ट्रपति शेख मोहम्मद बिन जायद, हिज एक्सेलेंसी राष्ट्रपति मैक्रो, हिज एक्सेलेंसी चांसलर सोल्च, हर एक्सेलेंसी प्रधानमंत्री मेलोनी और हर एक्सेलेंसी प्रेसिडेंट वॉन डेर लेयन, इन सबको इस इनिशिएटिव के लिए मैं बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। फ्रेंड्स, मजबूत कनेक्टिविटी और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मानव सभ्यता के विकास का मूल आधार है। भारत ने अपनी विकास यात्रा में इस विषय को सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता दी है। फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के साथ साथ सोशल, डिजिटल तथा फाइनेंशियल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में अभूतपूर्व पैमाने पर निवेश हो रहा है। इससे हम एक विकसित भारत की मजबूत नींव रख रहे हैं। हमने ग्लोबल साउथ के अनेक देशों में एक विश्वसनीय पार्टनर के रूप में एनर्जी, रेलवे, वाटर, टेक्नोलॉजी पार्क्स जैसे क्षेत्रों में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स इंप्लीमेंट किए हैं। इन प्रयासों में हमने डिमांड ड्रिवन और ट्रांसपेरेंट अप्रोच पर विशेष रूप से बल दिया है। PGII के माध्यम से हम ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर गैप को कम करने में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दे सकते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, भारत कनेक्टिविटी को क्षेत्रीय सीमाओं में नहीं मापता। सभी क्षेत्रों के साथ कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाना भारत की मुख्य प्राथमिकता है। हमारा मानना है कि कनेक्टिविटी विभिन्न देशों के बीच आपसी व्यापार ही नहीं, आपसी विश्वास भी बढ़ाने का स्रोत है। कनेक्टिविटी इनिशिएटिव्स को प्रमोट करते हुए कुछ मूलभूत सिद्धांतों का सुनिश्चित किया जाना महत्वपूर्ण है, जैसे अंतर्राष्ट्रीय नॉर्म्स, रूल्स तथा लॉज का पालन, सभी देशों की संप्रभुता और क्षेत्रीय अखंडता का सम्मान, डेट बर्डन की जगह फाइनेंशियल वायबिलिटी को बढ़ावा देना और पर्यावरण के सभी मापदंडों का पालन करना। आज जब हम कनेक्टिविटी का इतना बड़ा इनिशिएटिव ले रहे हैं, तब हम आने वाली पीढ़ियों के सपनों के विस्तार के बीज बो रहे हैं। मैं इस ऐतिहासिक अवसर पर सभी लीडर्स को मैं बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं देता हूं और सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं।
Gentlemen, thank you, all my colleagues. This is, someone once said in a similar domestic action that was positive, this is a big deal. This is a real big deal. And I want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. One Earth, one family, one future. That's the focus of this G20 summit. And in many ways, it's also the focus of this partnership that we're talking about today. Building sustainable, resilient infrastructure, making